So we're not just, well, here's your books, they're done. It's more, here's your gross profit margin, and here's the trend for your gross profit margin. And let me share with you 4 strategies that you could implement and look at to help improve your margin.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be an absolute fun one. First off, I hope you're having a great holiday season so far, and I cannot believe that 2022 is nearly done. And 2023 is right around the corner. Regardless, we have a very, very special episode for you. It's our year-in review show, and it features an amazing group of guests, including Katrina Aarsman, CEO of Pure Bookkeeping Australia, Julie Watson, founder and director of Bookkeeping Relief Business Services and Australian Pure Bookkeeping licensee. We have Jessica Fox, who is the owner of Florida Virtual Bookkeeping, and as well, she's an American Pure Bookkeeping licensee. And Teresa Slack, who is the co-founder of Financely and a Canadian Pure Bookkeeping licensee. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you for having us.
We're happy to be here.
It's great to have all of you. And it's not often that we have such a big group. Well, it's once a year that we have a big group on the call. So it's always fun and different. So I'm excited to get into it. So how this episode's going to work is I'm going to be asking our panel here today a couple of questions and just to get an understanding of how their year went. So we're going to start off with, in 2022, what was the biggest surprise?
I'd like to start that, Michael.
Yeah, Jessica, let's do it.
A big surprise for me is noticing this new trend in how many clients are delving into crypto. This is something that I had been avoiding learning, and I had avoided taking clients that did it, but many clients are either accepting it as a payment method, using it to pay vendors, or trying to do investments in it. So that's quite the shock, not something that I had envisioned when you asked me this question last year.
It's interesting, and I agree with you. That is very, even hearing that now is surprising, but I am surprised, but I'm not surprised based on kind of a lot of talk about it throughout the year. But then it'd be interesting, and maybe we'll get to that a little later in the show, where now is like, what are they talking about now? Are they getting out of it because of the crypto situation?
You'd think, but QuickBooks Online just added the option to get paid in crypto. So I have the feeling that despite the volatility, it's not really going away.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. So much change happening in that area. Teresa, what about you? What was your biggest surprise of 2022?
Yeah, I would say, we had sort of anticipated to see a slowdown in the growth of e-commerce. As you know, we specialize in it. And, Connie and I were chatting last year and saying, you know what, with the world opening back up, we expected to see a bit of a slowdown. Not the case. It actually has continued to grow quite dramatically. And in my conversations with Connie, we were sort of talking about the fact that so many people during the pandemic worked at home and saw the value of being kind of on their own. And a lot of them had to start businesses, and a lot of them did e-commerce just to get some earnings over the pandemic. But that has continued to grow. And we really thought we were going to see that trend going the other way. And that really surprised us. But yeah, it has not slowed down. And even more and more people are jumping into starting their own e-com business. and leaving the workforce and saying, yeah, you know what, I've had enough of that. I don't want to go back to the office, so I'm going to quit and I'm going to start my own thing, and it's going to be an e-com business. And that's what we're seeing a lot in 2022.
Interesting. Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
that is, and certainly the whole get back to work thing has been interesting, and we'll get into talking a little bit more about what you've been seeing in that area. Julie, down under Australia, what's been happening in Australia? What's been your biggest surprise of 2022?
Yeah, it's a little different here. Jessica talking about crypto being a big thing. We're hearing a lot about crypto from the industries, but a lot of our clients didn't get into crypto at all. So we haven't had that same experience here. We've got one that did delve into crypto, but he started about 3 years ago, and that's all. It's a little bit different. But one thing that has surprised me the most about 2022 with we don't specialize in one niche. So we have a lot of different, we have the services, the trades, the e-commerce, we have a lot of different industries. And I noticed the bridge and the gap between businesses is growing, which surprised me. So some have grown so fast in 2022, and the ones at the bottom that were sort of hanging on dropped off or had to close business down. So I'm seeing a big gulf between highly successful businesses and then businesses that are just, through seemingly no fault of their own, not able to make it and have gone the other way.
So it's so interesting. So interesting. You know, definitely that perspective. Always find it interesting, the differences between the different countries, Australia, the United States, and Canada. And, you know, whether someone's getting into something like crypto, is that happening? Is that going to either be a leading indicator or a lagging indicator? Well, we won't know, but it's always so interesting. And then Katrina, for you, what has been your biggest surprise of 2022?
I was surprised that we're in Australia, we're still quite cautious to travel and attend live events. There's been quite a lot of conferences and things on this year, and people are still a little bit cautious, or maybe they're preferring to stay at home, maybe they're preferring to continue doing webinars. Yeah, so that surprised me that that impact is still flowing on a little bit. We're a little bit cautious still.
We'll get back to the interview right after this word from our sponsor. Are your clients still managing their business finances with paper? Don't let them do that anymore. Get them started with Bill. Bill helps automate finances for hundreds of thousands of small to mid-sized businesses so they can easily and quickly pay bills, collect payments, and manage employee expenses. With Bill, your clients and you will get greater visibility and control, and more time to spend on the important stuff. Say goodbye to old school financial operations and hello to Bill. Learn more and get 10% off for your clients at bill.com/successful bookkeeper. Thank you for hearing from our sponsor. Now let's get back to the interview. That's interesting. And so in terms of, I'd love to know from Jessica and Teresa, what has been your experience of live events? Because that is one that I was actually going to be one of my surprises is how actually strong. Like, we did our virtual summit in 2021, which is, there was very little travel, very few in-person events happening, and it was a very big turnout for the Successful Bookkeeper Summit. And I thought, oh, you know what? It's likely not going to be as many people interested in a virtual summit this year. And I was wrong. There were a lot of people interested in, a lot of attendance. It was almost as attended as 2021. But then I also saw a lot of people attending in-person events. I personally didn't attend any in-person events, but I've heard that they have been quite successful. I'd love to hear from Teresa and Jessica on that. What's been your experience in North America?
Yes, you're right. There have been several conferences that have taken place this week. Those that had been put in hiatus have been back this year, and they have all been sold out. And personally, I haven't gone to any of them, but I have many colleagues that have been attending. I know several that are at a conference right now, and the photos that they share are a full house. I still personally love my virtual events and really hope they won't go away.
Me too. I love them too. From the comfort of our home. Don't have to go to these crazy airports.
Yeah,
And Teresa.
I completely agree. I like our virtual events, but yes, we actually have seen quite an uptick in Canada, but not as much as in the US. And, there's been a lot more physical events that I'm seeing in the US than in Canada. But we have had a couple of large ones. We had a big one in Toronto last week, and it was fantastic, and it was awesome to see everyone live. So they are coming back, but I think they're coming back slower in Canada than in the US.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm seeing.
Interesting. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I mean, it's a great opportunity for the industry. The hunger never ceases to surprise me. The hunger for knowledge in this industry, wanting to learn about the new technology, wanting to learn about what others are doing in the industry. And so that's the pleasure of working inside this industry, is that our listener right now and all of you love to learn and love to be sharpening your saw, if you will, the best that you possibly can to do the best work that you can. So events help you get there. And I think what's cool is that we saw a really big bump in the ability to do virtual events and investment in technology and whatnot to do that. But then, of course, there's nothing beats standing next to somebody and having a beverage or, having a real conversation in a group of people live. So it's kind of like we're going to get the best of both worlds, perhaps, going forward.
I hope so, Michael. I really do, because there's huge benefit for people who may not be able to afford the travel, the hotel, the conference itself, the airfare, and then they don't get these opportunities. So I think a big benefit that we have seen through this pandemic is you can have an amazing virtual conference and provide the connections and the education that people need and want. And I hope that doesn't go away, because so many people can't do those physical events.
Absolutely. It's like from a time perspective, from a cost perspective. So there's definitely a place for it. And hopefully we'll be able to bring more of what people love about in-person events to the virtual events and make them more feel and experience like an in-person event in the future. Let's jump into setbacks. For all of you, were there any setbacks? And if so, what were those setbacks? Or did you observe setbacks for your clients or yourself in 2022?
Yes, I noticed that inflation was a big factor for many of my clients, and it really stalled their growth, and it really put them in a position very similar to where they were back in 2020, when things drastically changed very suddenly, where they needed to pivot and adapt and tweak. Thankfully, my firm wasn't as directly impacted. While several of my costs grew, I was able to absorb and adapt my pricing accordingly. But other industries where they have slimmer margins, or business owners that did not have the support of a bookkeeper and were not able to see this coming or catch it in time, they've suffered.
Yes, the inflation has been, it's one of those same things. It's shocking, but at the same time, how could it not become that based on what's been going on in the world? But certainly hearing about it, seeing it, and certainly has been a big conversation on a lot of the podcasts that we've done throughout the year. And I think we're just sort of in the midst of it. That was a big one. Katrina, what about you?
Yeah, one of the biggest setbacks that I've seen this year is the lack of staffing, the lack of resources. There are so many businesses struggling, especially in hospitality, that just can't get the staff to actually work the hours that they want to open. There are shops shutting early, shops not opening at all, the construction industry. So yeah, we're really noticing a heavy drop in, the ability to serve because of the staffing issue that we've got here.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Katrina. It's been a massive problem in Australia. Staffing is got to be almost number one setback, I think. Inflation has definitely been a problem over here as well, but we're finding it hard to find staff in our industry, but also our clients have struggled phenomenally. We have one that's a builder who had about 8 staff, and he's down to 1. And he actually went to a friend of his who is a principal of a school and said, look, I need a year 11 or 12 student. Can you recommend somebody? So he's gone to that trouble. And the principal said, you know what, I can't give you anybody. They've got a terrible work ethic in my school. And he doesn't know where to go. And I also was chatting to my tax agent, my accountant, the other day, and he was saying that it's so dire there that they can't find any staff at all, that accountants are hiring agents, brokers, to poach accountants from other accounting firms just to get the work done. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's happening, lawyers, every industry can't find workers here in Australia. It's very difficult. And every client is telling me that. And as a result of that, the payroll of the existing clients, all of their employees are coming to them saying, I want a pay rise. And they're getting these phenomenal pay rises. Yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah. Is that what's happening in North America as well?
Yes, in Canada, for sure. We're seeing the same 2 issues with inflation, and staffing has become a major problem throughout the country as well. Definitely. And it's affecting our e-commerce clients quite heavily because of the inflation, the cost of them trying to get their products and the supply chain issues, and then trying to hire staff to assist them. We've seen some clients who have really, really struggled through 2022 because of this. And it's led us to do more consulting work to really help them understand their numbers so that they can make better decisions, and really, pruning down even their product offering, because certain things, the cost of getting the product to them sets the price so high that they can't sell it. So we've done a lot of more consulting in 2022 to help them through navigating the inflation and all the other issues that this has created for them.
Yes, and it has been similar in the United States. I will hear all these headlines about the Great Resignation and the worker shortage, but I wasn't seeing it with my clients. And then I started to do an analysis, and I realized it's because my clients tend to invest in people, and they tend to pay higher than minimum wage. They offer additional perks beyond just compensation, work-life balance, and other of these intangible benefits that are so valuable to employees, which is why I had not noticed. And it wasn't until I had gone to a restaurant for lunch and they had cut down their hours because of the shortage that I realized, it's still happening out there. And these are the business owners that really need the help because they don't know how to approach it. The people are there, out there. There are still workers, but many of them are going into business for themselves because they were not having their needs met. It's not just a paycheck.
Yeah. So agree, Jessica.
Such a tectonic shift on multiple fronts because of, I think, not that it wasn't there before. I think the pandemic was the breaking point that had people just go, okay, enough's enough, and have a taste of something new and different, which then it's a big mystery for so many people because they may have not, like you say, Jessica, been dealing in that kind of a business. It's like we have this traditional business where it's like you get paid this, you come, you do your work, and it's like that's how it works. Whereas the pandemic gave people time to think, to make choices, decisions, different things. And so where that'll all lead to, we don't know, but it's definitely, I see it everywhere. I see it in hospitality, restaurants, hotels. I see it in small businesses, the hiring signs all throughout the greater Toronto area where I live. There is a huge shortage. And of course, every single person in our community is talking about either inflation or talking about the staffing issue, which such an interesting one because it just seems so large. And I have to, sometimes I say, well, where did all the people go? And so where is this leading us? Do you see signs of improvements? I mean, Julie, you had mentioned one of your clients was looking to go to high school students, but the work ethic is there. So that's a whole nother layer of challenges. Like, do people have the work ethic, or are they getting the training or the education that our workforce is going to need for the next 5 to 15 years?
Exactly. It's a big problem. I think staffing is going to be a very big problem in the next 5 to 10 years, but even less than that's going to be very quick. Even where we're seeing people have to be very creative about how they hire. So there's a restaurant here who's actually asking their customers if they want to work, and getting people who are saying, yeah, sure, they don't care if you have experience, just need people to fill those positions. And we have tradies who their employees should be on around $20 to $23, $24 an hour award wages, and they're paying $50 to $70 an hour to these tradies, and they have no choice but to do that. So my fear is that it's going to bring up inflation even further, and we're going to have a bit more of a flow-on effect in 2023 because of the worker shortage.
Makes sense. So in terms of your thoughts on how does our listener deal with these issues? We got inflation. I mean, obviously the crypto is a big one, e-commerce. There's lots of change and challenge with both, just those two alone. E-commerce and crypto are very complex. And in a way, it's kind of like thankful for the industry, because if things are getting more challenging, there's a solution that's needed for business owners to have to deal with e-commerce, crypto, changes in the way regulations are happening in countries. That's where a bookkeeper can really shine and help and provide value. But the challenge of inflation, the challenge of staffing, how are all of you solving this in your businesses or thinking about solving it?
Well, I can step in a little bit. When it comes to inflation, with crypto, we're certainly prepared for it. But as I said, we don't have a lot of that trading in business here in Australia. It's more personal investment. But when it comes to inflation and staffing and all of the challenges that are presenting our clients, we're really noticed that cash flow is becoming more important, cash flow management. And so we're actively looking for a solution right now that will project out cash flow for the next 12 months. We have had a little bit of requests from our clients to do that already, but I think it's going to be much more necessary to even educate the clients that we have that are not thinking in terms of cash flow, that they do need to think about cash flow. And projection planning is going to be important, because if you just put your employees up $20 an hour today, what flow-on effect will that have? So I think that's more important than it was in the past, and that's one strategy that we're intending to implement to help them through that.
That's exciting.
Yeah. And what we've been doing is more consulting. So we've sort of changed up how we complete a month end of bookkeeping. We actually include insights for the client along with descriptions and action steps for even more of our clients. So we're not just, well, here's your books, they're done. It's more, here's your gross profit margin, and here's the trend for your gross profit margin. And let me share with you 4 strategies that you could implement and look at to help improve your margin. So we're doing a lot more of that, and the plan is to continue to do more of that, so that we're not just giving them the numbers, we're telling them strategies on how they can address them, because it is so critical with inflation and with what's happening in the world that they truly not only have the numbers, but have a strategy on how they can improve them. And that's really been our focus and what we'll do for 2023.
Very exciting. And I would also say, knowing you, Teresa, and having had you on the podcast several times and worked with you for many, many years, you charge very well for those services. They're not just add-ons that you're just doing. That's baked in and built into very, very good pricing strategy that you've been able to put into your firm that has been great for your revenue and profitability.
Yes. Absolutely, Michael.
That's one key piece I want to make sure. I know we probably get to that. The winning strategy of the year is probably pricing, but I didn't want to step over it because it's a key piece, and you've done an amazing job of that. And I know Jessica has done a good job of that as well. So but thank you. And that's so consulting and adding that, being proactive with clients, very, very important. How about you, Jessica? What are some of the things you're doing that our listener might think about doing to solve some of these issues or brace for some of these issues that are happening?
Well, very similar to Teresa, I have also been doing a lot more consulting. And it's very interesting because I used to attract those price-sensitive clients until I refrained my mindset and changed my pricing. And now I attract much better clients. But it meant I still had some of these people that have been with me for years or were incredibly price sensitive, and they just wanted the bare minimum. And there was this one client that when I had the repricing conversation, I was fully expecting them to leave. But instead, they upgraded to my premium plan for substantially more, so that I could help them navigate these challenges. And once we went into the advisory and did the assessment, I realized that she was losing sleep thinking that she was going to have to close her business because they were bleeding money, they were not profitable, and her husband was working, and he ended up giving himself a heart attack working, and they were getting nowhere. And it was quite the amazing journey to be able to dissect the numbers, translate them into plain English so that she could understand this is what went wrong, this is what needs to change, and then be able to come up with an actionable strategy in easy to follow steps, not just giving this very abstract goal that sounds nice, but nobody knows how to get there. And I mean, I know that I'm jumping ahead to the win, but really they were able to save their business.
Amazing. Amazing. So consulting is big, and that's a lovely story, and it preemptive to one of the questions. So we'll jump there now, which is a heartwarming story of client success. I love hearing these. Last year, I think I broke down crying because I was so moved and touched by Teresa's. I was thinking,
I made you cry.
You made me cry because my personal story is my father had a challenge, really good at being an electrician, a technician, heavily studied, all of that was amazing, did amazing work, hardest worker you'll ever meet. And yet running a business was not his thing. It just like and really when you're talking about a company like a tradie, this is what you would call a tradie in Australia, or an electrical business, you've got to have the numbers. You've got to be able to have that going. Back then, they didn't know what it was. Like your story, Jessica, was a female, but that was my dad. It's like he's just doing the work. He's working hard. He just didn't know where the finances were, and thought that an accountant was the solution, and it wasn't. He didn't have a great bookkeeper that would be able to help him. He tried to have my mom do it, which caused terrible stress on the family. So I always love hearing these because it's part of my why is to empower bookkeepers like yourselves and our listener today to that's why we do what we do, is to help those small business owners. So I'd love to hear from the rest of you. What have been your heartwarming stories of client success?
I'll certainly share one if you like, and I'll do my best not to make you cry.
Thank you.
So we have a longtime client that, started with us probably in the first year of our business, and she grew really quickly, and then COVID. And her particular business, she's a non-e-com business, it had to shut down. So for 2 years, she truly struggled. Open, closed, closed, open, the revenue dropping, the team members gone, the clients gone. And she was so stressed. When she started 2022, she reached out to us and said, I think I'm shutting her down. I can't do this. I can't. But you know what? We worked with her. We did a whole bunch of consulting, really digging into her numbers, and we helped her rethink her business and to shift and to make it a bit business that she is now today happy to continue to build and grow. And she is growing in a way that is sustainable. And it almost makes me cry, because this woman is just such an amazing woman. And the fear when she called us at the beginning of this year compared to how she's feeling now is so heartwarming. And to know that we've helped her to turn it around and make it profitable and building the way she wants.
Absolutely love it. Definitely,
it's a good one.
Definitely misty-eyed from all of the heartwarming stories. They always get me, and it's the families, right? She's a lovely person. All of the business owners out there walk a tightrope without a net, and so whatever we can do to help make that more successful for them, it impacts not only them but their staff, the children of the staff, their own children, so many people that are being impacted. And I say it often on the podcast. I'm sure some listeners go, okay, Michael, I get it. But I always will say it. It's like, that's the reason we do what we do. It's what bookkeepers are so great at, is being able to be the shepherd, if you will, for business owners. And nobody has that role. Very, very, very few actual people have that role, with most small to medium-sized entrepreneurs, where they get that close and they have that big opportunity to make such an impact in their lives and in their business. So it's a big one that I think often that I see that bookkeepers can forget when they're doing the work and busy doing the work. They can forget that is what it is all about, and what makes it incredibly, incredibly valuable. So thank you both, Jessica and Teresa, for sharing those. Julie, what about you? Heartwarming story from you down under?
I do. I think Teresa would be able to say it better than me, though. But I had a young couple come in recently to the office because they were referred to us, and had been using Excel for 8 years. So that's quite a long time. She's been typing into a spreadsheet for 8 years, and their transaction base is very high. So she's got 3 children, and she works as a teacher as well. So you can imagine she's absolutely overwhelmed. And what they were doing was using QuickBooks to just put their invoices in so that they could send them out to the client. Their accountant wasn't returning any of their calls, and they just thought that's the way it is. That's just the way it works in business. So when they were in my office and I explained what we do and how we do it, she just broke down in tears, because she couldn't see a way out of this, but it was right in front of her. So it was fantastic. We put her on Xero, set them all up, and one of the biggest fears was that they didn't understand payroll. So they were just handing money to their employee they only had one employee, handing money to the employee every week and not knowing how to do the tax or anything. So very clueless. So that was lovely, just to be able to set them up and structure it for them, and they're absolutely loving it.
They should be teaching this stuff in high school.
Yes.
Elementary school. It's really the financial education or literacy from a business perspective. I mean, personal perspective, number one, that's weak in schools, but financial business literacy is just barely touched upon in any school. And this is why we have this situation. And when you switch it around, the productivity of that person just went through the roof. Their impact on society went through the roof because of the work that you did. They'll be able to grow, have more staff, be more profitable, make more money, and that's a rippling effect. It's a rippling effect. Another big win. So thank you for that, Julie. Katrina, how about you? Heartwarming story of 2022.
Yeah, it's actually in relation to one of our Pure Bookkeeping licensees. She decided this year was the year that she's in her journey of bookkeeping business, that she was going to sell her business. And she had multiple people interested in buying her business, to the point where she was able to get 1.3 for a dollar rather than dollar for dollar. When you're trying to sell your business, we usually talk about dollar for your business, but she was offered 1.3 for the dollar for her turnover. So it's heartwarming to know that there are bookkeeping businesses out there wanting to buy other businesses, that they see the possibility and the opportunity in buying a bulk like this is in excess of 300,000. So it's a big business to buy into, and the confidence that people are feeling of this industry, and being able to still provide a good service for clients when you're just buying that size business. And yeah, I just thought that was awesome to be able to get that level of value, knowing that she was also a licensee with the systems in place and all the business all bundled up, ready to go to be passed over to somebody else.
Oh, it's amazing, yeah. Because of the part of the any business owners, and surprisingly in this industry, it's actually not often thought about, an exit strategy. It's one of the things we ask all the time. Have you thought about how you will end or exit your business? And often the answer is no. And many people will just think, oh well, I'll just keep on doing it until it's just done. But when you start to think about what that could be, could I sell this business? I mean, this person built a business and then had a payoff at the end, got paid, probably increased profitability and got paid a salary and profits out of the business. But then in the end, to be able to sell the business for over $300,000, probably close to $500,000, that's pretty exciting. That's a pretty great win.
Absolutely.
And 1.3, that's a major premium on that business.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, as I said, love hearing the heartwarming stories. And now I'd like to hear, what were the heartbreaks of 2022 for all of you? Kind of a downer question. We should start with that one.
For me, the heartbreak that I witnessed was not even a client, was a fellow bookkeeper. Our industry is being flooded with new talent every day, which is very exciting because there are more businesses every day that need help, and there is a shortage of good bookkeepers. And I am very passionate about helping those that are starting out avoid the trial and error and all the headaches of reinventing the wheel that I went through when I started. So I had been watching the journey of this bookkeeper as they tried to grow their business. They went through all of the education, developing their systems, setting up their marketing. So after essentially assisting from afar and occasionally answering questions, I became invested in their success. But unfortunately, something that I see, and sadly is fairly common in some online communities, they were the victim of people that put them down. And it's very common when we're starting to have this imposter syndrome and this lack of confidence because we're new. And I really wish that they had found a community as supportive like Pure Bookkeeping, because I was telling you, like, in Pure Bookkeeping, nobody's going to tell you you can't do it. They're going to cheer for you and support you to get it accomplished. But unfortunately, there are all these Facebook groups and all these online trolls that instead of saying, this is how, they instead will say, you have no business doing this because you have no experience. But really, how is somebody supposed to get the experience? So it was very heartbreaking for me to watch that after this person spent so much time, money, and energy, they essentially gave up and went back to the workplace because they felt defeated and they couldn't overcome that imposter syndrome.
That is sad.
Oh, no, I'm going to cry, Jessica. That makes me so sad to hear.
I am sorry, but I think it needs to be said. I like
No,
to
you're
believe that
right.
every listener here is supportive of others. And I am so blessed and thankful to have found Pure Bookkeeping, because I know that that is always
Yeah.
a safe place where there's no stupid questions and everybody is committed to helping everybody else succeed. But we need to shine the spotlight on the fact that there are other communities that are not that supportive, and that there are some people out there that really should keep on scrolling rather than answering questions.
Yeah.
So true. So true. It's unfortunate to hear. Happens way too often. And it's part of one of the heartbreaks that I would say for me as well, is seeing people get ground down by false information. And sometimes that false information maybe is coming from prospective clients. They haven't had the training or the ability to work with people like yourself, Teresa, Jessica, or be involved in the Pure Bookkeeping community, where they believe the client is right when they say you charge too much. When they say, I see posts where people are like, I can't find any clients, and they're giving up. And it's like, I want to help as many people get to the place where they can be successful, like yourself, Jessica. And it is heartbreaking. So one of the things I will say to all of you, and of course, all of you already know this, but to our listener, in our communities, in the Successful Bookkeeper community, if you ever see, obviously the people that are bullies or trolls or anything are probably not listening to the podcast, I would think. But if you are one of those listeners that see something like that Jessica has seen, I know Jessica would report that person or that activity, because we do not tolerate negativity in our community whatsoever. And that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on, is that we want a safe community, whether it's Pure Bookkeeping or the Successful Bookkeeper community. We are here to support each other in our journeys to being successful. And so there's no place for putting people down, bullying, any of that. And that comes from, unfortunately, Debbie Roberts couldn't be on the podcast today. She's been on every other year in review. Unfortunately, she's had some health issues this year, which we were going to actually talk about in this podcast, but she has a few other challenges. We will do that episode later in 2023 with Debbie. But one of the things, Debbie, who is the co-founder of Pure Bookkeeping and really an inspiration to this podcast, The Successful Bookkeeper book was written about Debbie Roberts, and one of her key tenets through her life and through her businesses, she will not tolerate bullying or negativity. And that's through and through our culture. And thank you, Jessica, for bringing it up, because it's so critical in this world with all sorts of inputs and groups, like you've said, so easy to get bad information.
Yes.
We just want to help them all. We just want to wrap our arms around them and say, it's okay, come here. It's a safe place. We'll take care of you.
That's right.
Yes, I know lots of cyber hugs, because I know so many find this podcast when they're starting to get that guidance and to get that motivation. So if anybody listening feels that you have encountered some of those actors, know that we're not all the same. Don't let them dictate your business journey. Reach out to me, reach out to Teresa. We'll hook you up with the supportive community.
We will.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
For sure. They deserve it. When we all started from zero, we all started knowing nothing. And it takes people who are willing to share and help, and everybody wins.
Yes.
That's right.
I can share a heartbreaking story.
Please, Teresa.
So we have, again, a long-term client who probably started with us in the first year or two. Just a wonderful, this husband and wife team, and they were growing this beautiful, beautiful business. They've got 3 small children, and things were taking off. And through COVID, the wife, who was kind of the major centerpiece of this business, started experiencing some very challenging mental health issues, to the point that she had to step out of the business. And, she and her husband, full-time job, he couldn't run the business. They had to, in 2022, they had to hire kind of a general manager. And this is a company that, I feel like it's my baby. I help them accomplish so much. And the general manager that they brought in doesn't value finances in any way, doesn't value bookkeeping or accounting in any way. And through this year, we've been trying to work with this person and trying to help them understand what we can do for them. But it's fallen apart. And actually, as of December 31st, we have to disengage with this client. And I met with the husband, and it was just so devastating. And he said, I get it, because he's been watching this happen over this whole year. But it breaks my heart, because this company, and they're struggling, they're losing money, they're going down. And I keep trying to help this person understand that, they're not doing okay, and that their numbers are constantly falling into the negative. And I wanted to work with them to turn them around, and not willing to. And it breaks my heart. It honestly just breaks my heart. So
challenging. And
yeah.
Definitely mental health through COVID, it affects, and it's one of those challenging situations. And thank you for sharing. I'd imagine many listeners, because of the situation of business and everything that's people have been going through, that would be happening a lot in many businesses and ownership, or at the ownership level.
Yeah, I just wish they brought someone in that understood the value of what we do.
So I think the theme there around heartbreak is connected to mental health. So many things that affect so many people, from COVID to the stress, inflation, that all has a ripple effect. Just like when we help clients, it has a ripple effect to all sorts of people. When people are going through stress and anxiety, and we have inflation and all these shifts in business, it causes stress and anxiety, and that has a ripple effect to so many people, their families, and we see it everywhere. And we see it all over the place, and it is heartbreaking, but as well health, right? So we mentioned Debbie has had. There's been a number of people in our community that have been struggling with both mental health and also physical cancer. Is always a big one. Seems for this year in particular, many people in our community have been dealing with health issues. And so that is heartbreaking to see. And I think what we had planned was having a conversation with Debbie about, what to do to prepare for these challenges, not only with our clients, but also for our own businesses, to ensure that you have the business designed such that if you needed to take a break or and deal with yourself or your family, that you'd be able to have that ability to do that. But that'll be an episode we'll tackle in the new year. Julie, did you have a heartbreak? I think you did share one, or did you not?
I don't have a specific one, really. I think more along the lines of what Katrina and yourself were talking about. It's generally quite disappointing losing clients. And, we've had about 3 or 4 businesses close down. So I think more this year in 2022 than we had in 2021. And in 2021, it was just a very intense year. Everybody was, overwhelmed with trying to keep things going. And I think the expectation was that 2022 was going to pick up. And for so many businesses, it didn't happen. And after a full 12 months of struggle, a lot of them have given up. And that's quite sad, really. These are businesses that have been going for a long time over inflation issues and cash flow issues, and other businesses above them closing down. So it's quite sad that happens. And often I found this year trying to step in when you can see things going wrong and trying to help people by rescuing them. But sometimes their mental health, like the other ladies were saying, is just being pushed too far, and they don't want to engage. And so some of them, one guy said, you need to come in and see me because we need to fix up your bottom line. And he just wouldn't get back to me. So I feel like he's a little overwhelmed with all of it, and he's just like, no, I don't want to fix my bottom line anymore. So I felt there's been quite a bit of that this year.
The head in the sand strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those are the not so exciting things, but I think there's always the silver lining in anything we learn from, and it's one of the progressions of life is having to deal with challenge. And so 2023 brings that opportunity is what can we do to make things better, to have a better year, to help more people more efficiently, to build a better business. Those are all the things that come out of challenge. And so it's always both more exciting and lovely to hear the heartwarming, but I always find guidance in hearing the heartbreak as well, and a bit of the what we can do better. And on that, I'd love to know, we're going to talk about strategies that you employed for growing your business, both the results that were successful, but also the failed strategy. And this time, let's flip it around. I was going to do the successful strategies first, but let's do the failed strategies. What didn't work, if anything, for your business attempts? You set out to do something, it didn't go the way you thought it would go. Do you have any of those? And then we'll get into the ones that actually did work.
I can share one if you like.
Yes.
So in 2021, we decided we needed to change workflow systems. Because the one we were using at that time, it was Jetpack. It was great, but there was just some things that it just couldn't do for us. And we jumped on the bandwagon and put in probably 6 months of work to switch over to a new one. And in 2022, it did not work. But thank goodness, Katrina, we have Pure Workflow. So it didn't work as we spent all this time switching to another system, and now we have switched again to Pure Workflow because it's just solving all of the problems. But such an investment of time in making that switch and doing it twice. We switched to one, and now we've had to switch to another. But at least the one we're in now, it does what we need.
Beautiful. Well, that's always an interesting challenge because you're doing, this is a strategy that you invested a lot into, and you could have maintained that course. Like it wasn't like it was fully broken, but to switch was a huge cost. How did you make the decision? What was there's always that fail fast philosophy.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast, but the objective is fail fast so you can get to the ones where you can be successful. But if you've got a kind of a slow burn on the failing, it can be tricky to make the jump. It's like throwing good money after bad, or do you throw it all out the window and start from anew?
Yeah. The deciding factor for us was the amount of time it was taking our administrator to maintain the one we were using. And it wasn't doing a couple of really key things for us. Every time that we had a new workflow or a change to a workflow, our administrator would be investing 8 hours to make that change across all the clients. And we like to keep tweaking. We like to keep making our processes better, more descriptive, constantly making them better. And it was not sustainable because every time we wanted to change it, our poor administrator would, cry. And that was not working. And so as soon as Pure Workflow came out, and we heard all about it, it's like, I know that we just wasted 6 months. I recognize that, and we're just taking it. It's like, okay, we messed that up. That did not work. We paid for it, and now we're going to switch again. But we made the decision and went all in and made the switch. And it's, again, a lot of work to switch your entire workflow system.
Huge amount of work. Thank you for sharing that. And that it's kind of like a fail and then a success.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you have other success. We'll come back to that. So thank you for that, Teresa. And it's so great to hear that Pure Workflow is solving your your firm's problems and lots of great things to come there as well, which is exciting for 2023. So, Julie, a failed strategy for 2022.
Yeah, I've got two. Teresa reminded me of my own failed strategy there, because I also implemented a workflow system in 2022 we were very excited about, and we've decided it's not going to work. So we're in the middle of now working out which one we're going to move to. So I will have a good look at Pure Workflow, and it is a lot of effort in setting it up and then finding you're in the wrong one. But the other failed strategy that I had this year was I've been trying for so many years to employ one of my kids in the business. They're all adults now. And so I have the baby girl, she's 20. And so I decided she needed a job and I needed an assistant. So I put her on, and it didn't work as well. So that was a good 3 or 4 months wasted as well. I really should have hired early on in the year. I'm finding I'm at the end of the year and I'm way overwhelmed, and we are at capacity and I can't take on any more clients, and it's a very bad time to hire. So yes, that was a bit of a failed strategy of mine.
Okay, thank you. Yes, definitely family businesses. That's like a whole month of episodes we could do on the podcast. So we'll have to tackle that one. Failed strategy, Jessica.
For me, my failure was to try to continue the things that I used to do when I started my business, and I had all the time in the world. I am a DIY-preneur. I love to learn things and implement things and tinker. I have a little bit of a shiny app syndrome. So when I started my business and I had a handful of clients, I had all the time in the world to play around and create things myself. And it worked well. It brought me joy. It saved me money. It got the job done. But I've reached a point in my business where I am at capacity. I don't have time to be doing these things. And here I am preaching to my clients to focus on what they do best and delegate the rest. And here I am not delegating. So that was that big wake-up call and a big failure this year. I had all these plans of things that are not must do, but nice to have. And I just did not get around to it.
Wow. I knowing you, Jessica, you are an appanature. I can't even say the word. We need to come up with a new word for appreneur, because you are the definitely the queen of apps. So that has shifted for you in this year.
Yes, it has. And I tell people not to try to fix what's not broken. And I did it to myself just because I saw a shiny app and I'm like, oh, this looks cool. I already have that issue figured out, but it looks awesome. Let me be an early adopter. And the app is great, but it meant that I had to reinvent the wheel on some systems in my business that I had already figured out and that had already been automated and were working fine. And I had no business messing with them other than I am addicted to shiny apps.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing that. And the classic saying, don't fix what's not broken. But there's always another saying too, which is, you go and you fix that and you do the work. And what we don't see is around the corner and what can come from those things. But there's always the silver lining. But I think from this day and age with the thousands of apps out there, it can be very dangerous and time consuming to anyone that's listening to be trying to do everything in the business.
Yes, it can be a very dangerous rabbit hole. So my advice to any listener is don't just sign up for an app because somebody's talking excitedly about it. Just because it's working well for them does not mean it's necessarily a good fit for you, and it's going to save you a lot of time and effort if you step back, evaluate before you jump right in.
That's right. Katrina, in terms of you seeing, what were some of the strategies that you either saw other licensees, Pure Bookkeeping licensees making, or what you feel was a failed strategy for 2022 in the industry?
I think it was around the systems We've had a lot of licensees join us that don't have systems in place, so they've got themselves into an overwhelming business with a lot of work on themselves, and that they've not, put those systems into place where they can manage the workload and manage the business that they want to build. And they just keep adding more and more work onto themselves. And I guess it's a consistent strategy for many years as well. But I noticed a lot of licensees have joined just because they don't know where else to go. They've got their their business to a position where they just need that extra help. So, and we talk about it often, not putting systems on early enough. So as soon as you're, building a business, to implement a system as soon as possible. And looking, as Jessica said, looking at the different apps that are out there and finding the one that's going to best suit what you require. Doing that sooner than later. And a lot of people don't. Doing the systems is boring. They want to get the work done. They want to build their business, do all those exciting things inside their business. Actually implementing systems and working through that stuff is boring. It's not as creative as working with clients, but it has to be done to be able to build that better business so that you can be a better operator for your clients.
That's right. It gets to a critical point where you won't have the time or capacity to even work on the systems. And so capacity is always so important to a business, having the capacity as a business owner to work on the business and do the things that are going to improve it so that you can do better, to deliver better service to your clients, to be able to improve the conditions for your staff, to be able to grow the business, to work on the things that are going to make it a bigger difference. If you don't have capacity, you can't work on your delivery systems, you can't work on your pricing, you can't work on your training systems, it's all there. So getting capacity is always so critical, and one of the strategies to do that is implement systems and improve processes. And I always think the number one is if you're in a capacity issue, through the years and years and years of listening to bookkeeping business owners on this podcast, number one, if you have a capacity issue, get rid of the clients that are not serving you, that are not your key ideal clients or giving you heartache and pain. Remove those clients and get the capacity to build a better business. I know all of you on this call have great businesses, and that's one of the key things that you've done is get rid of clients that don't suit you to build a business you love. Let's go into the winning strategies for 2022. What were the ones that really worked out?
What really worked out for me was to finally get off my rear end and implement a referral and testimonial collection system and follow through with it. This is something that Mark Wickersham, who is one of my teachers and mentors, had been teaching for years. And he gave me all of the steps. And I would be like, yep, that sounds great, taking notes, but I wasn't taking action until this year. Yes, I had put some of it into place beforehand, but now it's systematized. And that has led to amazing growth because I am getting targeted leads, the right type of leads, those that are like the clients that I love. I'm getting people that are very similar to them. And once implemented, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort. So I encourage everybody listening, if this is a pain point, do take the time to implement the process. And it's essentially just building it into your discovering, onboarding, and client interactions. And it will be well worth the effort.
Oh, I love that one.
That's so awesome.
That's so exciting. And it is so true. Like if you have good clients and they're referring people, they're likely going to be good clients that are being referred to you. Whereas if you have a whole bunch of bad clients, it's going to be the same. They're going to be referring bad clients. So, which you can say no to still, but I love that one because it's a system that's going to be a gift that's going to keep on giving. once you've done that, Jessica, and I'm going to look forward to hearing about that in the future. You've done that this year. That gift is just going to keep giving and giving and giving and getting better and better and better, because now it becomes a behavior. And I've seen a lot, and actually where it comes from is seeing this work is in the real estate industry. I knew a realtor that was so great at nurturing the referral part of their business, treating people amazing, but then also educating them around how they can refer business to them in such a very eloquent way. She was just so amazing at it, so natural at it. And it made her business explode. And I know it will probably do the same for you. So that's an awesome strategy story. So thanks, Jessica. What about another strategy that worked in 2022?
Sure. I have two. We've had more, but we did two really big things in 2022. One was a whole brand new website, all revamped, all targeted to e-commerce. And the leads that we are getting from our new designed website are way better quality leads. Our other website was beautiful, and I was still getting comments, "Oh, I love your website," but we weren't getting the right clients. And by completely revamping the whole thing, it has made a big difference in who is coming to us for work. So that has been amazing. And then the other one is our e-commerce training academy. We launched it in the fall of 2021, and we had set some very small targets, and we blew the revenue target on that one. I think in the first 3 months, we already had generated all the revenue that we thought it would generate for the whole year. So that one has grown very quickly and has surpassed all of our planned revenue targets for 2022.
Exciting.
And that's our e-commerce training academy for accounting professionals that we launched.
Beautiful. And that has been really, I've heard wonderful things. People are able to learn about e-commerce, how you're building your business around that, and teaching people to do the same. And of course, we'll have a link in the show notes for people to learn more about that. So lovely strategies, one that's growing your business, but also one that's growing your business, but also helping others grow their business. So
Exactly.
it's a double benefit there. Winning
That's
strategy.
what we love.
Yes, and I love it too. Winning strategies. Julie, down under, what was a winning strategy for you?
Well, 2022 was a very busy year for us, so we are at capacity and we didn't put on any extra staff, or we should have. And also staffing is an issue here. So rather than generate business growth, which is not what we really wanted to do this year, it was more around really servicing the clients that we have and offering more value to what they normally get. So we did put prices up at the start of the year, which was great. And I like the fact that has it has a double benefit, really. I like that obviously it meets your costs, but the second thing about putting your prices up is it sort of cements your professionalism in the mind of your clients. So I do like that, even though financial systems and situations are difficult. It's something to do every year. So doing that, and also just really well servicing our clients when we were very time poor this year, has been fantastic. So we do get still have been getting a lot of referrals from our good clients. So our best clients are referring equally good clients. So that's been wonderful in that the leads that we're getting are fantastic leads. The other thing that we have done, and we're taking them on when we can, the other thing that we have done is turn away bad leads. So even though that sounds obvious and you don't want bad leads, identifying much earlier who is potentially going to be a difficult client to work with. And we have turned away several clients this year. And it's been just really liberating doing that. I'm very glad that we did it before we started. And also firing a couple of clients that were bad. So it's really gearing us up to hopefully hire well next year if we can. and then start building on that really good basis. All we would need to do is really put out an email to our existing network and we would get a lot of leads. So we're not at that point where we can facilitate it, but when we are, we're really strategically positioned to be able to manage it.
Wow, that's exciting. Some good ones there. And Katrina, what have you seen in the industry and in the community around strategies that were working?
I think the one that I'd like to talk about is getting really good results, is getting support and accountability from leaders in the industry. We have a lot of mentoring opportunities in our industry, and being able to talk with somebody outside of your business about your business and really generate some positive activity, so that you do actually focus on profitability, working with your good clients. There's so many things inside your own business that you're actually just stuck in the doing, that you actually can't think of the holistic view of your business, where you can really plan out what you want to do, really think about what your vision of the business is and where you can take it and how to actually get there. So by talking with a mentor to be able to help you take those steps, build that confidence, and just allow you to really perfect what you're doing and take the what you really want to do with the business, and just take those opportunities and just giving you the permission to do those things. So I think a lot more of our bookkeepers are seeking advice from leaders in the industry. There's a lot of mentors. We do mentoring inside of Pure Bookkeeping, and Sharon Francisco in Australia and Lisa Campbell's program in North America. These are the bookkeepers are getting such great results from these programs, and even just from the support system that they're getting from just inside the community. So reaching out to your leaders, reaching out to people that you respect and see how well they are doing, and asking questions, getting support, reaching out for assistance.
I love it. I love it. There's nothing like I've seen it for myself. When you surround yourself with amazing people and you have people who have been successful and know the journey or have walked that path that you want to walk, when you get around them, great things happen. And it's almost magical. I would say it's more than almost. It is magical, because you just don't even know. The people going into these programs have seen it time and time again. They have no idea what they're going to get out of it, because they just don't know. Because they're set in their own mindset, and it's like, that's the way the world looks and is, and I've done it this way, and that's the way that it is. Sure, there might be a few other things you could do differently, but then they see something that they've never seen before, have no idea, and it just opens up, and the progress in their business is lightning fast. I mean, I think all of you can speak to your own journeys of being on that other side going, I don't know how we're going to do this, to creating some miraculous business that you've created. You're all going to probably say it was because of the community and the people that you surrounded yourself with. And so I'm seeing that as well, both in 2021, 2022. It is growing. More and more people are reaching out and seeing that this is an opportunity for themselves.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the industry trends right now in 2022 and going into 2023. What is the biggest things that are shifting? We've talked a lot about inflation, of course, and the economics of COVID, staffing issues, but let's talk about perhaps other industry trends that you see that are positive happening in 2022 and coming up in 2023.
I would say, some of the biggest industry trends for 2022, and I believe they're going to continue into 2023, is the whole embracing of virtual work and virtual teams. I know many bookkeeping firms that, of course, with COVID, all went virtual. They made the hard shift, and they're not going back. And I'm seeing more and more of that. And then the other thing we're seeing a lot of is so many more people, like Jessica mentioned, the great resignation. That is what they're doing. They're leaving the workforce, starting their own thing, doing it virtually, being able to work from home. I think a revolution is happening in the sense that workers understand that they need work-life balance. They need flexibility, that their families matter, and that they can't give everything they've got to a firm that is requiring them to do that. They want to have the ability to lead their life and their work in a way that works for them. And that's the big shift that I'm seeing. And I think it started with COVID, and people are just not shifting back. It's like, no, I matter. My mental health matters. I want to be able to have flexible work hours. I want to be able to chart my own course so that I can go and help out at my son's school, or I can go and spend time with my mom because she needs my help. More and more I'm seeing that, and I think it's beautiful, but also makes it hard for big businesses to hire.
So true. So true. Exciting one, challenging one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing that all over the place. Jessica, trends, what do you see?
Very similar to Teresa. I've noticed the same things, but also within our industry, I've noticed an uptick in something that has been happening over the last few years, but I see it picking up speed quite fast, and that is automation. People are looking to automate tasks, and there seem to be 20 new apps per day to help do that. And while it's great, I do caution to be careful, because some apps are joining, other apps are leaving, other apps are being absorbed by bigger apps. So having a good plan for automating so that you get the time back, but at the same time you are not crippled if that one app suddenly decides to shut down, will be a big focus in the coming year. I tout a lot of the benefits of that, but I've also seen the people crying when things don't go as expected. This is not meant to discourage you, listener. It's just to be mindful. Automation is great and it will save you a lot of time, but take the time to document and have a backup.
Yeah, well said. Well said. So many changes always happening, and it's just a constant flux for every single tool that's online, which causes a lot of maintenance requirements. So not only implementing it, but then having to maintain it. And then, as you said, the changes that occur. Thank you, Jessica. Julie, what are you seeing down in Australia as major trends?
Yeah, so I am seeing a really lovely trend in the last 12 months and possibly even 18 months towards valuing bookkeeping services more. We can all remember the day when you would meet a new client and they would say, what, you don't work for $35 an hour? That's what I expected. So the expectation in these clients that I'm seeing now has really changed. The value that they're putting on the service has increased a lot, and I'm finding that we're having to justify prices a lot less than we ever did, which is a fantastic thing. Been waiting for a long time for this to happen. I don't know if it's happening in North America and Canada, but it's definitely happening here in Australia. And I was talking to people in rural areas, because there's usually a big difference in what you can charge in the city to what you can charge in rural. And I've been very interested to find out, is that still the situation? Is there a big gap? So going to some of these events in person this year, which I've really enjoyed, I've been talking to some of these rural bookkeepers, and they're saying the gap has really dropped. So there's no longer a situation where they have to charge, say, if you're on an hourly rate, $20 an hour less because you're in a rural area. So I like the trend that's happening there. The other one that I do like is that I'm really seeing a massive improvement in the software available. We've been, tweaking software in Australia for so long, and tweaking bits and pieces and using this software and having to change it. But I'm loving seeing all these new software providers coming on the market and offering us fantastic software. So the software offering is getting bigger and better. And I'm very excited about that, because that just gives us so much more to work with. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, those are some great things. And the value is wonderful to see. It's going in a great trend that way. And definitely seeing that, I think, in North America as well. Katrina, What are you seeing in terms of big trends into from 2022 and into 2023?
I'm seeing a lot around the cybersecurity. So there's a lot of talk with our taxation office, so our compliance boards. We've been hit by a lot of cyber attacks in a lot of our large organisations, in our telecommunications, in our health organisations, that we're all being threatened, and people stealing our information. So there's quite a lot of apps that are coming out around the cybersecurity, a lot of webinars around that. We're moving towards a director ID, new client identification. So for every client we put on, we have to prove their identification. So there are new apps coming onto the platforms to be able to do that. So it's a real uptake in cybersecurity options that we all need to be aware of. It's just incredible, the heightened alertness.
So true. Lots of change coming there, and that's another big front that education will have to improve and continue to help everyone, and that goes right from all of our own businesses right into the clients that we serve.
Yeah.
Some big trends, very exciting things, and challenges ahead, which certainly create opportunity, which is exciting. Let's wrap up this conversation with what your big focus will be for 2023. What is it that you're going to be putting your main focus on for 2023? And let's start with Jessica.
So my big focus this year is to slow down growth. I am not trying to build a bookkeeping empire, and I am okay with that. But that means that I need to say no more often and be more intentional about who I take on. I have started a waiting list. I am being more discerning. I am making sure that I at the forefront the reason why I started my business, which was to have the work-life balance and being present for my children as they grow up. So that means that I am being a lot more intentional and refining my systems to further reach that goal rather than continue on this fast growth track that I've been in the last few years.
Sounds lovely, and good for you for making those choices. We'll love to see that in 2023 for you. Teresa.
Jessica, I think you're just so amazing. And I love that you have a very clear vision of where you want your business to be. I always love hearing how you're doing. So we are building a bookkeeping empire. We have big, hairy goals for 2023. Certainly, the big focus on our strategic plan is automation, social media and marketing. We have some very stretch revenue goals. And then I really want to focus on building and growing the academy and helping more accounting professionals build the business of their dreams, because that truly is the piece of what I do that fills me with joy, is when we can help inspire another bookkeeper to build and grow a business of their dreams, whatever that is.
Lovely. I love that. Exciting. And your business just continues to grow. So exciting to see that. Julie, what's on for 2023 for you?
Staff. I need staff. I'm going to hire 1, maybe 2, and then be able to take on more clients. So the other thing I want to do is swap over my workflow management software and implement really good cash flow management forecasting for clients. And the other thing that Teresa was saying she's been doing is putting together something whereby we can analyze the data for the clients a lot better. So giving strategies and 4 key points to take away, all of that. But to do that, I need the staff to give me the space to work on all of that. And I think that that will be able to be achieved in 2023.
Lovely, lovely. Katrina, what do you see for 2023 for yourself?
I think for bookkeepers, they'll be moving into the advisory, into consulting, into being able to help their clients more with projections and making good decisions in, these, difficult, challenging times, which means for me and for, Pure Bookkeeping, we're going to be able to provide, or we're wanting, stepping into 2023, provide more support to our licensees, to bookkeepers. More mentoring, more assistance in, implementing systems into their business so that they can then step away and leverage from those systems and be able to, do the work that they want to do, get into that advisory consulting, get their day-to-day stuff organised, take it, hand it over to staff so that they can actually, build that better business, what the business of their dreams that we all talk about. So that's what we'll be focusing on, I'll be focusing on in 2023, in just being more available for support for bookkeepers.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Some great things. For the successful bookkeeper community, 2023 is going to be about community, just continuing to grow the community. I'll add that in for where my focus is for this community and this podcast and the successful bookkeeper community is more events, better ways to connect with each other, better ways to share the wonderful knowledge that all of you have shared with all of us and our listener now. So that is where we're going and what we're focusing on, which seems to be a theme of this podcast interview today. All of you are so generous. It's one of the reasons I love this community is there's so many like you. And I just want to thank all of you for coming on the show and sharing where you've been and where you're going and some of the ups and the downs and the wins and the losses from 2022. And so on behalf of our listener, I want to thank you all for your generosity in doing this.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Michael. Yeah.
Yes.
For inviting us on.
Yeah.
Our pleasure. And we'll love to see where you're all headed in 2023. And for you, listener, I want to thank you for listening. This is an extra long episode, and I want to thank you for joining us along all of 2022, and hopefully you've had a valuable experience from that, and we'll look forward to bringing you more of this in 2023. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guests and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye and Happy New Year.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.